Hi everyone, it's Melissa, and today I am talking about my literary white whales. This is, I guess, a trend that was started by Daniel at Guilty Feet. I will link his original video below, but he did a video talking about 4 of his literary white whales, meaning books that have eluded him. So not books that you have made peace with, that you are happy to put on the shelf and never read, but books that you have an interest in reading, but you have yet to conquer them. This has turned into a little bit like a tag. A lot of people have responded to this, sharing their literary white whales. I saw Brian from Bookish do one, and I know a lot of other booktubers have done responses to this, and I really liked the idea, so I'm here to share my 4 literary white whales as well. We are going to start with the one that I have on my shelf that I have been wanting to read since high school. Actually, I think all 4 on my list I have wanted to read since high school and just have yet to conquer. But this is Beloved by Toni Morrison. The big, well, there's 2 reasons. The biggest reason that I haven't yet read Beloved is that I know a little bit about the book. I know one of the main things that happens in the book, and I know it is going to tear my heart out of my chest. And every time I feel like I want to read it, something holds me back where I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'm emotionally in the right space to read this right now. But I think I'm never going to be emotionally in the right place to read this. I think it's just a book that I have to read because I know that it's going to be very upsetting, and I'm just going to have to be okay with that. So this is a book that I just really, really want to read. I have told myself I'm going to read it this year, so we'll see if I stick to that. But yeah, number 1 is Beloved by Toni Morrison. The second book is War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy, and I don't really know much about the content of this book, so it's not the content that has kept me from reading it, but it is, I guess, just this feeling that it's going to be too difficult, that I won't get it. It's also very long. A little bit of fear that I won't like it. I'll be bored by it. Now, that's how I have felt for many years. I have wanted to read it, but was held back by this fear, essentially, of it being too long or too challenging. I don't really have experience reading Russian literature, and I think Russian literature has this connotation of being dreary and difficult, and I just didn't think I was up for it, even though I had an interest in reading it. But I read a few short stories from Russian writers when I read, I can't remember the name of the book. It's by George Saunders. A Swim at the Pond in the Rain, something like that. I read it for the BookTube Prize, and while I didn't really like the book overall, I felt like mixed feelings about that book. It contained a bunch of short stories from different Russian authors, and some I liked better than others, and the one by Leo Tolstoy I absolutely loved. And so by reading that short story, I thought, you know what, Russian literature isn't impenetrable. I think I can do this. So I'm less afraid of War and Peace than I have been, but it seems kind of like a daunting read. So that is number 2 on my list. Number 3 is a book that we actually had, well, it's 2 things. It's the Illiad and the Odyssey by Homer. I am kind of lumping these together. We had these when I was in high school, like we had them at home. I think one of my brothers had copies of them, and I was around this time like really interested in Greek stories, but it always kind of stayed as an interest, and I never really tried to read them because I guess similar reason to War and Peace, I thought, oh, this is going to be too difficult. There's something about ancient texts too. There's such a distance there that it's even a little bit extra intimidating. It was one of those things where I was so afraid that I would feel stupid reading it that I never really gave them a try, even though I was very interested in reading those stories. Apologies if the angle or lighting or anything is slightly different, but my daughter was yelling for me to go help her with something, so I had to pause the video. So I think I mentioned the Odyssey / the Iliad and being intimidated by that. So my last literary white whale is something that I actually have already tried to tackle. And initially I thought that it was a permanent DNF, that it just wasn't for me, but I keep thinking about it, so it might be something I return to eventually. I don't really have any plans to get to it imminently, but I'm just still interested in the story, so I feel like I'll probably give it another try to make sure whether it really is the writing that I didn't get along with, or if I just wasn't in the mood for it, or something else. And that is I, Claudius by Robert Graves. It's historical fiction about the Emperor Claudius, and the story just sounded so fascinating to me because it's written like an autobiography, and he's just such an interesting character, being this emperor with a speech impediment. He had a stutter. I'm pretty sure he also had a limp, but I just thought that sounded so cool. This story of this emperor that the family kind of kept hidden or didn't really talk about because of these so-called like impediments, right? And the rise to power of someone like that just sounds so interesting. And the fact that it's written as an autobiography also really intrigued me. But I tried reading this, I think like 3 years ago maybe, and I got not quite 50 pages in, and I just like couldn't take it anymore. I was so bored by this book. I don't remember feeling super strongly about the writing style, so I'm wondering if maybe I just wasn't in the mood for it at the time, and so I was a bit bored by it. And if I had stronger feelings about the writing, if that stuck with me, then I would know maybe that it wasn't for me, but now I'm not so sure. And so that's the book that I tried to conquer and failed and thought I was done with, but maybe I'm not. If you've read the book and have strong feelings about it one way or the other, I would love to hear your thoughts. And as always, I would love to hear your thoughts about any of the books I've talked about, what your opinions are of them, if they were something that you had to conquer as well, if you found them intimidating or difficult or challenging in some way. But yeah, those are my 4 literary white whales, and I invite you to share yours in the comments below or to make a video about them. As always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll chat soon. Take care. Bye.